Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace.
Hey everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome to GeekyKOOL Presents episode 72 of GeekyKOOL Presents Professor and Ace.
Is it really?
It is. It's 72. So we had some time in December that we took a little time off, but we're back. We should be back to weeklies now.
Sounds like a great plan. Hopefully it pans out.
Well, we'll hope so.
Life sometimes happens.
Yeah, life happens.
So, hope everybody is ready for some geeky talk about a show that both of us have watched every episode, right?
We have. Yay.
Oh my gosh. I still have to go see Spider-Man in theaters.
You do need to see Spider-Man in theaters. Most definitely.
I just, and it's so weird because I had plans to go see it, and it was like I was really excited about going to see it. And I even had free tickets that I could use, but they were always sold out. And now my free tickets have expired.
Oh, no.
So
That's not good.
Yeah. So I'm like, And then Shabu had his surgery last week, so.
And we're glad to hear that he's doing well and recovering some.
He is, and he's actually been at work for the last 2 days.
Oh, wow.
They have him doing not his normal job. They have him doing some like inventory and going through like years and years of electronics that were just put into a closet. So he gets to go through all of that. It's fun.
Well, there you go. Go to the closet.
He came out of the closet. It's all good. It's a thing.
Well, let's talk a little bit about
Hawkeye. Okay, so first of all, I'm just loving all the shows that Disney. Are you having a problem?
I am. I'm not anymore. Okay, I'm good. Yeah, you're loving all the shows Disney does.
Yes, like I am loving, all of the shows, the Marvel shows that they've done. I think that it's great because you would never get these movies.
Right.
Because they're not the main stories. They're these side stories or, these stories that are from lesser characters. Not that Hawkeye is a lesser character because I love Hawkeye. But, in the grand scheme of things, he's not, Thor or somebody. Yeah. So it's a thing. I'm really digging like all of them though. And I can't wait to see what's happening next in the MCU because of it.
I agree with you. So Hawkeye is one of my favorite characters from Marvel outside of Spider-Man, Captain America, and some of the others. He's like the West Coast Avengers run on Hawkeye really sold them to me. I actually had a Hawkeye miniseries when I was a kid that I really enjoyed where it introduced Mockingbird at that point. And so it's been something where I've always enjoyed that character, even going back and reading his early days where he was a bad guy, turned good guy, and then he was the guy that was kind of the pain in the butt to Iron Man and Captain America throughout the Avengers. He was the guy that was always kind of speaking his mind and trying to do different things differently.
And the thing about Hawkeye is, and this show really brought it out, was Hawkeye's not a superhero.
Right.
Like, he's not superpower. He's just a regular person who's really skilled at something and is doing what he can to do good with that skill. Like he's not, a a super soldier or, bitten by a spider or any of that stuff. He's not even a rich guy who has like really cool toys, although he does have some really cool toys in this one. His arrows are amazing. But yeah, so that's why I always love those heroes that are just normal people that just happen to become heroes. And he chooses to be a hero, which I think is really cool.
Well, and Kate's kind of following that same line in the show. So we see that kind of her progression towards that, which is kind of a cool thing to do. I love the source material that they use for this story. They took it right from one of my favorite stories in the last 10 years from the comics. So it's one of those things where I loved how they used the story. And of course, they're adapting it to make it fit the MCU, right. But they did a great job doing that.
And, it's just one of those things. It's a fun story. It's not, it doesn't take itself too serious.
Right.
A lot of stuff is just a little too serious. And let's face it, like I loved Falcon and Winter Soldier, but that show was a way more serious and at points like even dark. Like they had some very dark points. And this one was very much the lighter end of this.
Right.
And I liked that. I love that there's LARPers.
I know, right?
And I love that Hawkeye is the one who they are rallying with because he is the normal guy who just happens to have these like skills. And right. LARPers, I hang out with LARPers. Like some of my best friends are LARPers. And LARPers have these skills. They really do. They play with fake swords and fake arrows and stuff, but they know how to actually use them.
Right.
Or they learn how to actually use them. And I think that it brings that thing about, anybody can be a hero if they're just trying to do the right thing.
Well, and it brings it all the way back to the end where they actually use the LARPers to help them at the end to do the right thing to get the people out of the building. I love that they brought it back around and the LARPers weren't there just as kind of a little sideshow thing. They actually used their characters to do some meaningful stuff.
It reminds me of, Mr. Rogers always saying, like, find a helper.
Right.
Like when something bad's going on, you're going to always find a helper. There's always going to be somebody trying to help. You find the helper. And that's kind of what the LARPers, their role in this is to be a helper.
Right.
Like they help in every aspect of the story. And they're just regular people. I mean, you have some that are in the police force, some of them fire, you have these regular everyday heroes that get a chance to be like hero with Hawkeye kind of thing. And
right.
I don't know. I think it's really cool. So
I think this series kind of brought Hawkeye from being the weak link of the Avengers to really being a very strong character because they really hadn't fleshed him out. I liked what they did in Age of Ultron, bringing him to the family, even though that was not what I was expecting them to do with his character. I thought that was a really interesting take with it. And I loved how the end of this kind of ties back into that. Of course, his wife keeps showing up on video and stuff, and you got kids in the very first episode. But I loved how everything's kind of tied to that. But to me, it made Hawkeye a much more important character in the Avengers.
Well, and he is, and that's just the thing. It's funny because when everybody else gives up, in game, when everybody else is given up, Natasha is still doing her thing and still trying to pull things together. And she doesn't have superpowers either.
Right.
She's trained. She has skills. And then Hawkeye is, lost everything. So yes, he goes and he becomes Ronin, which is awesome. And that's where this story starts, is basically somebody finds his Ronin stuff and they're auctioning it off. And that's where this whole thing begins. But it's this moment of, Hawkeye really has a big role in everything, and you don't notice it as much. I just think it's really cool because those are two stories that really haven't been told as much. I know Black Widow got her own movie, of course, after Natasha was killed off. She sacrificed herself. But then they brought her back for her backstory, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that we now have her sister in this.
Exactly.
And if you guys haven't seen Black Widow, you should see it.
I agree. I know there's some people that really dislike it, but I really enjoyed it. So, I mean, it had its problems, but I thought it was a good, solid movie.
With Black Widow, the thing was, I think people were expecting it to be a way for her to come back.
Right.
Like, it's not. It's
Nope.
It's a way for the MCU to go forward. And that's the whole thing, is like, not comic books you can have the same character be the same age for 50 years. You can't have the same actor playing the same age character for 50 years. They age out.
That's true.
So you have to adjust, and instead of recasting, because MCU did something really great. Like, they're the best I've ever seen at casting. They picked all the right people almost to play all the roles. Like, I can't name one who I'm like, they were terrible. I can name ones that I think, they could have picked somebody else for this. But for the most part, they picked the exact right actor to play those roles. And once they age out, like, what are you going to do? Recast that whole thing?
Right.
You can't do that. So bringing Natasha's sister in gives you that. And I love that she comes in to this and she befriends Kate.
I know, right?
Like, it's one of my favorite scenes. So I loved the witty banter with her and Kate.
Yes.
She's like broke into Kate's house and is just sitting there and like, do you want food?
Oh, you're finally here. Mac and cheese.
And she's like inviting Kate to eat at Kate's house, right? Bothering me a lot today. So she's at Kate's house, broke in after a fire, and is making mac and cheese. She offers mac and cheese. She allows Kate to eat some mac and cheese before she puts like her Tabasco on top of it, like her hot sauce. Like, she's like, you're done? Okay. And she like adds more hot sauce. And she doesn't even try to hurt Kate. Like, she's not there to hurt Kate. And that's the thing. It shows some. You see a lot of Natasha, a lot more sass.
Yeah, right.
Way more.
A lot
serious.
of sass. Yes.
Yeah. And Natasha was just really serious all the time, and her sister is not. And I like that. I want to see where this is going to go with her.
I agree. Well, in fact, in the movie where she's teasing her about her landings, her Black Widow landings, then she tries it at the end. I went back and rewatched Black Widow over the weekend after having watched all Hawkeye. I went back and watched Black Widow, and I just have an appreciation for Yelena's character a lot. So
I think she is a very interesting character, and I am excited about all the possibilities of the MCU that are coming to TV shows. And yes, I'm, everybody's gonna want to see Iron Man and all of them, but I like that they're introducing these other characters that we can now grow to like and love. And
in the comics, the original Avengers actually were only together for like 4 issues, because then you have Captain America show up, they find him frozen, he gets added, then the Hulk leaves right away, and then you go another 30 issues or so with this team, but then they change out members completely and bring in guys that were bad guys that will reform, like Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Vision, all guys that were bad guys at one point become good guys, and now Captain America is leading this group of guys that are kind of anti-heroes and bad guys. And so the Avengers weren't just the characters we think of. I mean, all those characters come back in, they come in and out, and throughout the history of the comics, they change their membership up every few years and keep things fresh.
There's, there's just new blood.
Right.
And that's what's good, because they're not trying to recast these characters. They're really not. They're like, okay, we're going to introduce some more characters that we can go forward with, and I like that a lot. But no, Elena's character was fun. I loved just all her witty banter with Kate. Like, she has those deep moments with Clint, but which was fine and understandable, and you can kind of why it's happening, so that she understands what Natasha did. But the banter between her and Kate and the friendship, like, I like it when she's like, girl, girl talk. Like, I had girl talk. Like, I feel like she missed that growing up in the Black Widow.
Right.
You don't have girl talk.
You do not.
You don't get to have slumber parties. You don't and I feel like she didn't get to be around her older sister or any of that. So I really feel like Natasha is young enough that she appreciates those things that she missed out on a lot more. And I just don't think she's as jaded as Natasha was, Like, I
Agreed.
think that she's not nearly as jaded yet. I mean,
right
there. We'll get there. It's a thing. It'll happen. But
what, trained killers get jaded? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, killers get jaded. Heroes get jaded.
They do. Well, and that whole thing about if a hero's around long enough, he becomes the villain sort of idea. So
right.
So,
and that's but I do like, and I like this whole Young Avengers kind of vibe that's coming out from all of and stuff. And I know a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of people who do not like that. They're like, no, they should just stop doing Avengers. They're just moving on to another story and another set of heroes.
Well, and you could call it several different groups. There have been several different group names for the young heroes that are tied to the Avengers. I mean, you do have the title Young Avengers in some, but you also have several other titles that you could go with to make a series and call it something different. So, I mean, you could definitely do that.
You have Kate. I loved when at the very end, where she's trying to come up with her own name and just the name Hawkeye appears. I like that, because Clint never wanted the ownership of Hawkeye. It's like Natasha never wanted the ownership of Black Widow. That's just
right.
So, yeah, no, it was really good. What were there?
Hold on, just one moment. We got special guests joining us. Coming live from Branson, Missouri, the Nerd Informants, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for them. Let's switch. Let's switch. There we go. That's it.
Hi.
Hey guys, welcome.
We're here.
We're glad you're here. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for the invite.
Thanks for the invite.
Anytime. We're glad to have you on this 72nd episode and our first of the year. So here you are. 2022, awesome. You're here with us. That makes it even better. We've got a ton of comments from Keith that we're going to go through here in just a moment. Keith, I'm not ignoring you, really, Keith. So Keith's got a lot to say, and Keith always does, and we love that about you, Keith. Keith, let me know, are you still in Hawaii? Keith, by the way, has been in Hawaii for the last several days, if not week.
That's
I know, it's rough. It's really rough.
Poor guy.
Especially when he's telling me he's living his Hawaii, Magnum PI fantasies out in Hawaii. So,
listen, I mean, it's a struggle, Keith. We sympathize for you. Like, if you want to trade places, I'm always willing to do.
Always, exactly, right.
Like, love me.
See, I talked to Keith about doing a geek show in Hawaii. That's what we need to do, along with becoming private detectives and driving Ferraris. That's the important part.
I mean, yeah, well, we got a dog already. We got one of the dogs. Ripley fighting.
Right.
100%.
So, Josh and Tim, how you guys doing?
Doing good. I will just simply say it sucks being on the final day of a vacation, knowing I got to go back to the world tomorrow. I'm not a fan of that, but I'm dealing with it. So.
I just came off of that myself, so I understand. I appreciate it, man. That is rough.
Wait. Don't tell me you understand. You're already back to work. You can't possibly understand. Two different circumstances.
I took yesterday off sick because of it. So there you go.
Tim, what is this thing they're talking about? Vacation.
It's an interesting word. I'm a fan. I'm interested. I want to learn more.
What they haven't gotten that figured out at your place of employment yet.
No,
because the paper doesn't stop.
Maybe they'll get that figured out at some point for you guys.
Listen, I was at the hospital last week because Shmoo had his surgery, and at the hospital wrote 5 stories that are now like sitting there for us to use. So yeah, no vacation. Honeymoon will be.
That is so wrong on so many levels. But
Well, the hospital's kind of boring, Josh. Like, you can't have anybody else go in there. It's only one person, so you're just sitting there.
It's true.
And you don't want to talk to people because it's the hospital. So.
Well, and plus, she doesn't want to talk to people. So.
I don't talk to people.
Yeah, being at the hospital has nothing to do with it.
I don't think that was the point I was making there. Just saying.
We kind of went around that, didn't we?
Yeah, I know. The point I was making is work, hospital, tending to family. It doesn't exactly go together. So
no, it doesn't. No,
but we do what we do.
That's true.
I applaud you for that.
When you write for the newspaper, you're always on call.
Look at Tim. Tim's like,
yeah. I mean, between finishing up, well, I didn't finish anything. Honestly, I just came in and gave the thumbs up on today's newspaper. But once I gave the thumbs up and then built Branson this week and then conducted 2 interviews, then I got to move into my own office, my new office, I should say. And so that's literally took me all day. Like, that's kind of why I'm popping in to the house later than normal. And Josh and I are popping on here a bit late, but
you're all good.
It was 7 hours of moving. I'm pretty worn out.
Maybe you shouldn't quite have so much stuff in your office. I don't know.
Listen, he's getting a bigger office. It's an office that the air conditioner actually works in.
Oh, well, There you go.
I have central heating and air for the first time as an office employee, so it's very exciting.
Is that what it's like at the radio station too, Josh?
What, having working central heat and air and indoor plumbing and stuff like that? Oh yeah, it's a wonderful thing. You just have to you have to be in control of your bowels because as a staff gets bigger, you have to strategically plan when you're going to go to the bathroom, and then you have those moments where you want to go to the bathroom and you heard the door close before you could get there, and then you're thinking, am I going to be able to hold it through a radio break? Or, my God, it's getting close to... Yeah. I made my point.
Gosh, I just learned way too much about you.
Huh? It's a new year. What have I got to hide? I'll spend the entire rest of your show talking to you about bathroom habits if that's what you want me to do. I'll do it.
Well, I say just put on Hey Jude and you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
All 15 minutes of Hey Jude, you're good to go.
You sing a song to yourself, in the hopes of keeping things under control and not having premature flow.
All right. Well, of all the things we would talk about on a Hawkeye review show, that was not where I was thinking it would go, but it's definitely an interesting point. So.
Well, I mean,
great transition point. I tell you what.
Well, I can always count on Professor O'Leary for getting us back on track when I completely derail it, coming in. I'm trying.
So, have you two gentlemen watched the Hawkeye series? I'm assuming you have.
That would be
yes.
A dual yes. A dual yes.
And tell us your thoughts, just in general. We'll dive into some of the other points to it, but just kind of in general, what were you thinking?
This is going to be probably like the most. What am I trying to say here? Bullseye. Clearly,
hit the target.
Not like an archery term there waiting to come out that hasn't probably already been used in this discussion, but no. an absolute bullseye. Jeremy Renner is in great form as Hawkeye. One thing that now that the series is over with, I want to see where the new cast additions are going to go. Yeah. I love the fact that D'Onofrio is back as the Kingpin. I absolutely love that. Absolutely phenomenal. He deserves to be in the MCU proper at large, like transitioning from the small screen to the large screen. And I hope he plays a very, very big part of the upcoming phases. But you know what? The best budding relationship that I never knew I wanted until the episodes happened. They were on an elevator. They weren't on an elevator. They were going back and forth. I want Yelena and Kate Bishop. I want a series on that. I want them to be in movies together. Yeah. As good as Jeremy Renner was and D'Onofrio, I want Yelena and Kate. That was awesome.
You're wanting some mac and cheese.
Yeah.
We were talking about that because I just loved like I was saying that Kate doesn't know quite what to think of Elena, but Elena is just like, oh, I got a new girlfriend. Like, I got a new best friend. I can hang out with people. Look, I made mac and cheese. Like, she's craving like normalcy, and now she has like somebody, outside of this like weird world she grew up in, and I'm gonna be your friend. Like, I'm gonna try to kill this guy that you're hanging out with, but you know what? We can be friends. And I love that. I like Elena's character a lot. I like her sassiness. I like that she brings that Natasha Black Widow spin, but in a completely different, youthful, non-serious. Not that Scarlett Jo was really old when she played Natasha, but she brought that a very seriousness to it. And Elena is just like sassy and smart ass, and I like those kind of people.
Well, what blew my mind the most the entire time during the series was how, I guess almost innocent Kate was. I mean, she's dealing with a Black Widow, a trained assassin, and she's having mac and cheese with her. And just the innocence that they brought to that relationship is probably my favorite, because Kate really doesn't understand who she's dealing with or who she's fighting. I mean, if Elena really, like the whole fight scenes after the elevator and everything, if Elena wanted to take her out, she could have. But, I mean, she likes Kate. She likes who Kate is. And like Josh said, that was a dynamic duo that I did not know that I wanted, but I am so glad that we got. I'm glad they brought them two together.
Well, and honestly, I mean, there's so many good moments. Like D'Onofrio's like quiet and subdued, menacing nature was really, really good, especially the dialogue scenes that he had with Vera Farmiga, Kate's mom in the series. That scene alone really kind of just established just how bad of a person he was. And then, of course, going one-on-one with Kate and just how vicious that fight was. It's like, okay, wow, let's not worry about the debate about, oh my God, he's so much stronger in this series than he ever was on Netflix. Why are we even? She's tiny and he's huge. Of course, he's going to ragdoll her and be able to throw her around. That we don't have to worry about the strength there. But my God, Rockefeller Center, tons of arrows, epic badassery in the series. That scene alone was like a pure standalone highlight. I love that fight scene.
I love you see her transition in Clint's eyes as not just this kid he's got to protect at that moment. Like when they're up until that point, he still has this, I've got to protect her. And then when they get there and they're fighting alongside each other and they go and they do that back to back, you realize that he's now going, no, I actually have another person I can depend on like before. And that was just a beautiful moment because of just how much she grew in just this little series in his eyes.
Right.
Which is huge. It's huge. And we talked about like the LARPers earlier. We were like talking about how Clint brings that anyone can be a hero. Just bring the skills that you have to the table and try to do the right thing. He's always done that because he doesn't have any superpowers. And you see Kate doing that and you're like, oh, well, she's going to be a superhero too. But then you bring the LARPers in and it's very much like that Mr. Rogers thing's find the helpers. They become the helpers, not just in the last fight, but throughout the whole series. They're the helpers. They help them do everything. So I like that whole idea that she grows, Clint grows, but everyone else is able to become a hero. That's what Hawkeye always made me think of when I was reading the comics
and the fact that they got the LARPers and everything to like work on cosplay and like actually develop costumes for Kate and Clint, I thought that was a really nice touch and a nice nod to the fans. You know, the fans, the cosplayers, people that love Hawkeye and Kate Bishop and dress up of it and go to conventions and all that stuff. This whole other world combined, and it's like, okay, that's a nice touch of real that you just wouldn't expect in a larger MCU film, and we got it here in this series on Disney Plus. It was awesome.
Well, and those costumes are right on the money as far as
Purple.
Looking like the Fraction series, Fraction Aja series of Hawkeye. They nailed those costumes, and I love how the purple hues were used, and everything made me think of that series. Now, Keith pointed out that they did not allow Aja to be a producer or have any sort of influence in the series where he drew all this stuff, and that to me was a problem that they should have rectified. But beyond that, now I do think, though, I have found the perfect cosplay for us all for our next convention. We've got bro, we got to get tracksuits, bro.
I knew that was good.
Tracksuit,
bro. Hey, bro. Hey, thanks for helping me with my girlfriend. Yo, bro. Yeah, you're not going to kill you, but thanks.
He texted me and he's like, Ace, I've got our perfect cosplay. And I was like, what? And he's like, tracksuit mob.
Yo, bro. We can all show up there, bro. Yeah, just all come in tracksuits. Yeah. I mean, that would be so
Larry can do the whole tracksuit thing. I'll put on 200 pounds and start smoking cigars and wearing white suits.
Right? I was like, no, he was perfect. I mean, I liked him as Kingpin when he was in, the Netflix shows. I liked him, but I thought this really showcased Kingpin being not just like this rich, mafia type guy. Like, he has strength and he has like this very formidable presence and that they didn't really touch base a lot with. They did a little bit, but not as much as I think. Kingpin is a really great villain, and he spans the MCU for so many heroes that I'm hoping that they continue with him. I agree with you, Josh. I think Josh is like yawning because he's got to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, just the pure thought of going back to the world is just not appealing to me. But no, you're right about Kingpin, and I love that. I mean, simply because all of the storylines that he's had in the comics and his interactions with Daredevil is one thing, but it also his fights, his very memorable fights with Spider-Man. You've got that on the page. That's one thing, but I'll take the most recent games, the Spider-Man games on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. The Kingpin has the ability to throw Spider-Man around like he's a freaking ping pong ball. So, why shy away from that? I really want to see D'Onofrio expand out. That's why I'm really hoping that Tom Holland is not legitimately done. I hope he takes his break or whatever he's going to do, gets himself recharged and comes back as Spider-Man, because I think there's a golden opportunity to explore D'Onofrio and Holland and, of course, Charlie Cox. You get those three mixed up in there. I would lose my geek shit if we got the three of them on screen at once in a major Marvel film. I would love that.
Again with the bathroom problems. No.
Hey, I'm in my 40s.
So am I. The thing.
What are
no,
the 40s you speak of?
Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. I would love to see that on screen.
Oh, I agree. No, completely.
Awesome. Like, Spoo was super happy when Kingpin showed up, and we knew he was going to, but when he showed up and he started talking, and just like he was like, "This is the Kingpin I've been waiting for them to release."
Yeah.
Into the MCU, just this Kingpin is the Kingpin. And it was written really well. Now the Hawaiian shirt, it like threw me off a little bit. I'm not even gonna lie.
That's comic accurate though.
I know, but it was just, I looked up. So I was looking away, listening. I looked up and I was just like, and I was like, wait. Okay. It was just that moment where that's not what I was expecting to see, but it was good. It was good.
No, you're right. It threw me off as well. I was not expecting it. And, I'm glad fans were quick to point out online and Facebook that, yeah, this is comic accurate. Like, this is something he wore. Because at first I was like, man, this is definitely a weird choice for him to be making. I mean, does Wilson Fisk like have an entire extra closet of Hawaiian shirts? Like, is he a Magnum fan as well?
I'd like to think so. When he's not running mafia members and dealing with weapons and beating the crap out of Daredevil and Spider-Man, I'd like to think that the guy can chill out on a beach somewhere with an umbrella drink and get his kicks on. I mean,
because you have to have it after a rough day at the office.
Oh yeah. And how many rough days at the office has the Kingpin had? I would like to think he's had a lot.
Oh yeah. These stupid heroes keep popping up and causing problems.
Interrupting my happy hour. Come on now, really.
Well, and AJ, just to add on to what you said, I felt like, Wilson Fisk, not so much his character development, but his character's abilities and actions and worthwhile to set the storyline in motion. He did more in 2 episodes than they did in 3 seasons of Daredevil. And I'm just like, man, how did they make that? I'm all about the flow. I'm all about the fast and getting right to the point, especially with my series and my movies. Like, let's pick up the pace. And they did that exactly perfect. I mean, they did it perfectly in this show. And so I'm very happy that they did that. And like you said, I can't wait for him to actually show up in the established MCU films. I mean, to have him in the same room as Spider-Man, Tom Holland, Spider-Man, and possibly, Doctor Strange as well. I mean, just the pure implications of that is just tremendous.
Yeah. Yep. They planted the seeds, and so now it's just going to be immensely difficult if right in the middle of this Holland says, "Yeah, I want to do Euphoria, and I want to be there on that series on HBO Max with my girlfriend. It's time for me to hang it up. Let's bring in my." I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, if he let's look at this. Let's talk about the variables here for a second. If he goes and he retires, right, and he's done with Spider-Man, Marvel is going to have to deal with that, and they're going to have to go a different way. Is it time to introduce Spider-Gwen, something that we haven't seen, Spider-Girl, that the Daisy Ridley thing that keeps coming up, Spider-Woman? There's an opportunity there, but also I think Tom Holland is right. I think you go on the search for Miles Morales, and you go that direction and bring Miles Morales in, and you transition away from Peter Parker, and then it's Miles Morales. And I should turn on my nerd card now. You guys are going to correct me if I'm wrong, and Keith, he can talk to me about this. But has Miles Morales been a part of the Avengers in any way, shape, or form in comic history?
The Young Avengers.
And maybe we're headed that way. Maybe that's where he could be introduced in the MCU proper.
I'm trying to remember. There's another group of young heroes that all apply there. Miles is a part of that, along with Miss Marvel and several other characters. So, I mean, you could see something like that happening. It's very possible that you can get all these younger characters developed in and really basically start with the preteens, just getting them sucked in, because you have these great teenage characters coming out. So,
and I think through the series and the films right now, I mean, I think we're starting to see the early seeds planted. Just that. I mean, what I love to see in Phase 5 or wherever it lands, to see a Miles Morales in there and see Miss Marvel, and then heck, if they establish her well, I mean, we know that Ironheart is on the way. Riri Williams is going to be coming to the MCU. So if Holland steps away, I think they can fill that gap. It's just going to be interesting to see how they do that.
Well, they're even talking about making a potential Spider-Gwen coming from oh my gosh, lost her name. From the Amazing Spider-Man series.
Making Emma Stone Spider-Man.
Emma Stone, yeah. And so there's actually talks that could happen. So
honestly, I mean, like Emma Stone would be really, really cool. But honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing if they can pull her away from Hulu and The Great. I would love to see Elle Fanning get a shot at that.
Yeah, that would be good.
Who I was thinking, like, she would be such a great Spider-Gwen. Elle Fanning. It would be, because she has that like snarkiness, like in her eyes. Like you can see that, like, she acts with her eyes a lot. She has those big old eyes, but that snarkiness that Spider-Gwen would bring, and she's a little younger and brings like some coolness to it. I like that idea, Josh. I hadn't thought of her, but now I can't stop thinking of her. I like The Great, by the way. Have you watched The Great?
I've seen bits and pieces of the first season, but now I'm like really behind we had it in the news. We just reported on the fact that season 3's gotten picked up with Hulu, and that's going to be coming back. I need to watch more of it. I mean, I like what I saw of season 1, the bits and pieces that I did see. It's just kind of got that over the top zaniness that I did not expect. It's kind of revisionist history, and you get to say huzzah.
Right. Boo doesn't like period pieces, but I love history. So I let him watch this. I was like, you're going to watch this with me. He loved it after the first 2 episodes in, and he was hooked. And then when the season 2 came out, he was like, oh yes. And so huzzah! We got a new season.
Yeah, and it's kind of going back to the Spider-Man thing, and I know Tim has seen it. I've seen it, and I don't know what I think about it. I mean, I loved. Are we okay to talk Spider-Man No Way Home?
She's not seen it yet.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Okay,
I've seen it. AJ is not. So I
know all the spoilers because I couldn't stay off of social media long enough, and so yeah. So
am I? Do you want me? Am I okay to talk about it?
So spoiler alert for anybody watching that's not seen it.
Okay, well, I think one thing that everybody has been talking about. Give me the X sign that you guys are chopping out. Am I okay to talk about it?
Yeah,
I'm good. Okay, all right. Really, everybody has got a very loud opinion on. Let's do a Spider-Man 4. Let's do an Amazing Spider-Man 3. Let's bring Andrew back. Let's bring Toby back and all that stuff. I loved the Amazing Spider-Man. 2 was just an absolute lost cause, and I loved all the Raimi films mainly because I'm a Sam Raimi fan. I love Toby and all that stuff, but I don't know. I've not gotten on the bandwagon about the guys coming back and doing another film. There's a reason why Raimi was done, and the other director of Amazing Spider-Man. There's a reason why those guys were done, and the story is done. We haven't had one for years because it is done. Right. I think honestly, I mean. Let's focus on Spider-Verse. If they're to come back, let's not have an individual film. Let's get them in the Spider-Verse.
Right. I agree with that.
Those characters, especially the Raimi films, were actually planned for Raimi to do a 4th one, but 3 got so messed up, and the studio came in and caused so many problems with what he wanted that caused him to want to step away anyway. And then 3 financially it was very successful, but critically. Everyone hates it. So,
well, and I think am I right in saying that between the two of them, Garfield has been more vocal about, hey, yeah, if the situation's right and we have this and we have this and we have this, I'll come back and I'll do it again. I just think if Holland steps away, then you go out and you get Miles Morales. I think you do a live action Spider-Verse. And you bring Toby and Andrew back in that mix and have them pair up with Miles and go that direction. I think that would be a nice welcome return for the guys.
See, I was hopeful that if we ever did get to see, Tobey Maguire step back into his own film verse and get a Spider-Man 4, that it would be a storyline where he's passing a baton to Miles Morales.
Right.
That's been my thought process for years. That I would love to see that take place. And older Toby, there's a meme that's been going around for a couple years now where instead of like the movie Logan that came out that James Mangold did with Hugh Jackman, like in that same essence, but instead of calling it, Logan, obviously they call it Parker. And, it'd be old man Spider-Man and, he'd be passing on the baton to Miles Morales. And I would absolutely love them to see that happen and then develop that form from there. Because I mean, with the MCU, it's almost become a point where we've got so many characters going on that I'm afraid that if they were to introduce Miles in the immediate future, he might get lost in the shuffle.
Sure.
And I really want him to be a standout character. I really want him to be given his time to shine as a character. And his storyline is just so fantastic that I would hate for it to get drowned out by everything else that they've got planned with the MCU, especially knowing that, Fantastic Four and X-Men are hopefully, reportedly, assumedly on the horizon.
Right.
I would really hate for Miles to do that. So if they were going to make a 4 for Toby, I would really like to see Miles pop in there. Now, if they were going to actually do a Amazing Spider-Man 3, I would like to see the conclusion to that storyline. They were really setting things up for the Sinister Six. They were really setting things up for him to learn more about his parents. And, I was hoping to see that come full circle. So if they were going to do a Spider-Man 3 with Andrew, I'd be for that 100%. But honestly, we are in this beautiful age of Disney Plus. So if they wanted to give us a little Disney Plus series and Sony and Marvel team up for a little thing with one of those guys, I'd be okay with that too.
That would definitely work.
Well,
I'm game.
And I love the fact that Sony has been stepping up to the plate. And it seems like Sony is finally starting to hit their stride because a lot of their stuff was just all over the place. It wasn't that great. I mean, they had their highlights, so they had their good moments. But now, I mean, they've had some consistent home runs. I mean, they're borrowing, they're listening, they're executing, and that's why I'm excited for more BS. I just hope to God we're getting these early signs of Omicron, and Omicron is starting to screw with a couple of movie releases right now. The Batman, I'm keeping my eyes on that movie very, very closely to see if it gets shifted. But Morbius has been moved once. I want to see how Morbius does. I'm really, really excited for that. I'm liking what Sony's doing. They just need to keep listening, and they need to keep that partnership going on with Marvel.
Right. I agree with that. So I did have a question for you guys. So have any of you guys read the Renew Your Vows line with Peter Parker, old man Peter Parker, who's retired from being Spider-Man?
Mm-mm.
So it basically, him and Mary Jane married, but they've got, things have been rocky at points, and they've got a daughter. And all suddenly she starts developing powers at that kind of preteen time frame. And so he has to kind of pass the torch on to his daughter, but then you've got other things going on. It was a great little storyline that came out of the new Secret Wars and then kind of went on for a while. I would love to see something like that. Actually, show me something with Peter and Mary Jane and kind of how rough things are to be married to a superhero and how he's passing his lineage on, but not always willingly because he knows the dangers that lie there. So it's that kind of, I want to pass it on to you, but I know if I do, then I'm putting you in danger. So I love those sort of storylines. But that's way off Hawkeye. So we're way out there on that. But
if they do that storyline, Clint Barton should be there. That's the transition.
See, now there you go.
That's exactly what you're trying to do.
Really not off the thing, because this is Hawkeye passing the torch a little bit to Cade.
It is.
And
it
so
is.
It's just the way that it's set up is, the future of Marvel is going toward these younger heroes.
It is.
And like they have to. And I said this before you guys got on here, and I've had this discussion with people, and they're like, well, they shouldn't, like, we should have Iron Man and Thor, and like this is who we are used to, and this is who we should see. And I'm like, but in the comics, your hero can be the same age for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
The actor cannot be this age for 50 years. No matter how much we want them to be, they are eventually going to have to age out of the character. They are, because the character's 40 perpetually or 30 perpetually, and the actor.
Except for Paul Rudd, no.
Yeah. Paul Rudd's
Paul Rudd will be Ant-Man until he's 100.
Paul Rudd is a unicorn. We know this. We know Paul.
He's the only one that has the ability to defy health and science. But
he got that from Betty White.
These characters are 40 perpetually on the page, but we all on this live chat, I think will be alive to see the day where there will be likenesses that are licensed or estates sign this up. So let's just say when Chris Hemsworth passes on, it's for him and his family to decide, is my likeness going to be able to be used in future films? It's going to be crazy, but I guarantee you, mark my words, there will be cinematic techniques where a person is resurrected. It's already done now. We've seen that, right? It's controversial. Some people love it, some people hate it. But I think it's going to be more widely used in the future, and we will also have AI algorithms set up and designed to basically recreate perfectly an actor's voice as well to go along with a likeness. I mean, right now, the de-aging technology, that right there, if you want to talk about where the industry has gone, the de-aging technology that Marvel has pulled off, especially in most recent films, it's scary. I mean, and that's the tip of the iceberg. So, you know, I think we'll be living with that in the future. So no actor is ever really gone.
Yeah, but let's move to. There's so many great characters that don't get to shine ever because they're not the main major character. In both DC and Marvel, there's just so many characters that they could choose from, and I like Disney Plus because they're letting these characters that not I love them, but not everyone knows them.
Right.
Everyone's super excited about it, and they're letting them shine now. They're picking the middle of the road. They're not picking the low ones that are obscure and no one knows except for freaks like me.
I'm hoping some of them might show up.
Oh, I am too.
It's one of those situations where we can actually sit and wish that we were in the room, the pitch meeting room, when the creators are going to Kevin Feige and the others going, I really want to see this character. We haven't had it yet in the MCU, and Kevin's looking at you going, no, we can't market that. That's not fiscally viable on screen.
I think a speedball movie is what we're asking for.
I mean, look at it this way: the fact that it is being created and shot, we're getting Xolo Maridueña as Blue Beetle.
Yeah,
that's an example of getting obscure.
That's
and
true.
Also, in the upcoming Doctor Strange, we're getting freaking Shuma Gorath. So we're getting weird. It's starting to happen. So.
If we're gonna go off of Marvel for a second, but you take Suicide Squad and all the obscure characters they used for Suicide Squad,
Polka Dot.
Get more of those obscure characters in the Marvel universe. Like we saw, Endgame, they opened up these portals and all these heroes came in, and you see glimpses of, but you don't know who half these people are because they didn't focus on them. There were hundreds of heroes that have never been focused on just in that scene, scenes. So let's open it up. Disney Plus has just been doing such a good job with these series because they're more obscure storylines or they're more obscure characters. They're not like characters that are focused on in these major films, and they're giving them to us in these series, which is great because you actually get to delve deeper into each storyline. It's not a 2-hour movie that has to rush from we're introducing this character and then you got to go there. This gives you these moments, and they give you these real moments, like somebody's eating mac and cheese. You're watching somebody eat mac and cheese in a superhero movie or show.
And that's a good point you make, and I'm going to rock the boat a little bit, and people in the room might just hate me for saying this. Disney Plus is doing a good job, but there are some series that just aren't hitting the mark, and I'm looking at you, the Book of Boba Fett. It has not hooked me yet. We're 2 episodes in, fixing to have a third tomorrow, and I thought I was getting a Boba Fett series, not a Tusken Raider series.
Just wait, young Padawan.
Okay. Well, have you seen episode 3 yet, Larry? Is that what you're saying?
Not yet. But I trust it will be amazing.
I am trying to trust, but the first 2 episodes have been a narrative mess, and it is not. It's not hit me yet.
I like the first 2 episodes. I don't love them. It's not amazing, but I'm enjoying it. So I wanted to get to some comments Keith has. So because Keith has been patiently waiting. I'm surprised he didn't ask to call in. Keith, we would love for you to call in, and you can give us all this stuff. He says he can jump in. I'm sorry, Keith. I just am now seeing this. Let me send him the thing because I think that's going to add an interesting twist to it because he's got a million things he's trying to tell us, and I appreciate it. He is a man of greatness. So let me see if he's still available here. We'll get him in here with us. I just had not seen that comment, Keith, so I apologize, my friend.
Comments are slow, Professor. That's the only problem with this.
The only problem with what?
Oh, like they come in and they're on the Facebook, and then you go and you're like scrolling through our comments, and it takes like a while. So
it can. Well, and Keith, I think sent me an individual message there, and I wasn't looking at those, so I was keeping track of. I mean, because I've got probably 15 messages there from him to go over. So we'll just let Keith tell us, because here is the one and only Keith Moncrief.
Hey,
what's going on, my friend?
Yeah, the waves are nice today, everybody. They're still there. I've left enough for everyone else.
Well, that was nice of you to let everybody else have some.
Yeah.
Mr. Magnum.
Hey, I've got my shirt right here.
That's what I'd like to hear.
Interesting discussion. I agree. HBO Max has done a fantastic job delving deep into characters that Disney Plus and the MCU have seen fit to follow suit. For me, it's all Doom Patrol. It may not be the Doom Patrol that I grew up with, but it is Doom Patrol.
Right.
And the strangeness that you've seen with that show for a limited time with Swamp Thing, NBC's version of Constantine, which was phenomenal. And if they had any common sense, they would try to do that again, because when they went and let Berlanti have Constantine, they completely neutered the character. But it's also what you're going to see with Sandman coming up on Netflix. Both Disney Plus, HBO Max, and others are starting to really get how this goes. But there's a lot of entertaining characters, and I'm still waiting for Steven Spielberg's Black Hawk. Okay, this has been an idea he has had for a long time, and for a lot of you out there who do not know that comic, you are in for a flippin' treat once he's able to get around to it.
So tell us your thoughts, Keith, because I've been holding your messages over here because I wanted to let AJ and I get started, and then we had our good friends the Nerd Informant show up. So I wanted to kind of get some stuff talked about before we dump in your comments. But you've got a bunch of thoughts, and we want to hear them too.
As far as Hawkeye goes, I thought doing a Hawkeye show was appropriate. I mean, it wasn't like Jeremy Renner was going to be able to have his own movie. The disappointing thing is that they decided not to start with that and go straight into a Kate story, and basically allowed Clint to be a guest in what would have been his own series. If you're not a fan of the comics, if all you know of the MCU or Marvel is what Hollywood has given you, then stick with the parameters of what they've given you in the films. You know nothing more about Clint prior to his appearance in Thor. You have no idea who this guy is. Clint is not a normal guy. If you go by the parameters set up in the MCU of who and what S.H.I.E.L.D. actually was, Clint was a very astute, very professional, very good agent and possible assassin, because that was his job. He was going to kill Nat. Yeah, and this whole thing with being a normal guy, I think, is a direct result of someone who has seen too much, not someone who is allowing themselves to be a down home guy. So you're missing that part of the character. And since, again, since a lot of people don't know what the comic book version of Clint was like and what his actual story is, and it's very kind of tragic. Parts of it make Peter Parker look really cool. And what he had to overcome to get to where he is. You're missing that. I'm not saying that you should not have had Kate in Hawkeye. What I'm saying is you should have started out with the background of Clint and moved into allowing Kate to become a part of it and to see the contrast of their two different lives. Because Kate is a really privileged spoon in her mouth kid compared to what Clint had to grow up with if you go by the comics. He had nothing.
Do you think, though, because, at the end of it, when he gives the watch back to his wife, and it's, aren't there hinting that they could potentially go into their backstory?
No. Based on what the Russo brothers have said, and it's never really been taken back, I think that a lot of the Phase 1 actors are being phased out on purpose. Kevin Feige wanted to kill all of the Avengers at the end of Infinity War. And this fits in with everything else they've done. I'll be surprised if Jeremy Renner decides to actually become a part of this series for any long period of time. And even if he does, the focus is on Kate. This is her time. This is her show. You have Clint's main thing is to just be who he is now. And there's never really going to be an opportunity to explore everything that made him who he was. Why someone like Nat trusted him so much. It isn't just the fact that he spared her life. There are other things mixed into that, but you never got into that, which also brought me in as the reason why I disliked Black Widow. Black Widow was nothing more than just an opportunity of having the Yelena movie. And then, having all these magical things happen rather than creating a Marvel version of, say, Salt, which they were more than capable of doing better than even the average Jason Bourne movie. And they decided not to do it. Right. I'm in the bag for a lot of the Marvel films. I am. Last year just wasn't their best year. Shang-Chi was nothing more than just like, let's have a Chinese character superhero rather than going with what the character is in the comics. More. And the Eternals was a complete flub. And now that we've heard what the director wanted to do, if she'd been allowed to make the movie that she wanted to make, she was going to completely cut out all you Spider-Man fans. If she had had her way, the latest Spider-Man movie never would have happened. Right. So there are people who actually do not completely sign up for the whole Marvel thing. And again, Patty Jenkins is one of them. That's the real reason why she never, ever finished her time on the second Thor movie. I think what we have is a situation where I do believe deep down that Kevin Feige is a fan of sorts of comics, especially the Marvel comics. But I do not believe he is the same kind of fan that a Jon Favreau is or that a Joss Whedon is. The very existence of Buffy the Vampire Slayer proves how much of a Marvel fan Joss Whedon was, because that's where Buffy comes from. She's Peter Parker. She's a female Peter Parker. She's a female Spider-Man. That's all it is. It was that basic to create Buffy. You just change the sex, and then you change the specifics of what she's dealing with. Rather than making it superpowers, it's supernatural. It was that simple. I'm not saying that Marvel is failing. Far from it. They have a lot going on. But what happened with James Gunn pretty much threw a major wrench into what Phase 4 was originally planned to be. And now that it seems like James Gunn is finding his groove at Warner Brothers, I can't even begin to tell you what else he's going to do beyond Guardians 3 and the Christmas special, if he's ever going to do anything else for them. I believe that the creative good times at Disney is over. Susan Arnold, being the chairwoman of the board, is going to basically make sure that Bob Chapek will be empowered to bring business back to everything. So those nice cushy contracts they were handing out left and right and giving people like Kathleen Kennedy and Kevin Feige power to do whatever they wanted, that time has ended. So
but I was promised one of those contracts today. What's going on?
Too bad. You waited too long. You waited too long. Now, but it's Josh, the same thing happening at Warner Brothers. So, yeah.
So, and I get that, Keith. Now, I didn't see Hawkeye as a Kate Bishop show. I saw it as a Hawkeye show, but a passing along of his knowledge, showing him as a trainer, showing him as somebody who's having to relate to somebody completely out of his window.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was the focus on him. I didn't see, even though Kate's introduced and she's a major character, I didn't see him playing second fiddle to her.
I say it as, again, if you take the comics completely out of it and just go after what the MCU has done.
Yeah.
When you hear that Hawkeye series is coming, it's Hawkeye. It's Clint Barton. That's who your focus is. By starting out from the very beginning with Kate, you are putting the emphasis on her as your main character. Now, for those of us that know the comics, it's like, hey, it's Clint. It's great. We're seeing all this excitement, and that's fine. But that's clearly not what we've gotten. And as I said before, since they're never going to make a Hawkeye movie with Clint Barton, it would have been easy for at least the first, maybe even the second episode to lean a little heavy on Clint's pre-SHIELD years, leading up to him becoming a SHIELD operative, maybe even going over at least the mission where he met Nat. Something like that. Something that is pre-Thor. Because he was a bad A in Thor. When you saw him in Thor, you didn't know who you were seeing. He was going to try to kill Thor.
My thing is, I agree with Professor on this one because I felt like the first couple episodes, yes, you have Kate and it's very Kate heavy, but it's Kate in the Ronin outfit and it's Kate having to with the repercussions of what Clint did as Ronin, which is part of who he is. It's darkness within him, and I thought that I thought they described that without going into like a bunch of flashbacks or a bunch of this. You understood that he is not just this good guy, and Ronin was their way of putting that in there.
Well, it would make it more. It would make it heavier and more intense if you were to understand of what his life was like growing up.
Yes.
And the fact...
I understand that. I just think that I actually liked that this one was a little lighter and had like some comic relief in it.
Yes.
And I like that because I think that it focused on not where Clint came from, but where he is now. He's now a dad. He's now, you know what? He's now focused on trying to be as normal as he possibly can and put his darkness behind him. And in doing that, I think that he passing the torch of the Hawkeye name, which he never really wanted, to Kate is his way of also like passing like all of this darkness that he had been struggling with and all the things that he did when, the snap happened and Ronin was out and all the things before that, like when he has that conversation with Elena about how he, him and Nat and their relationship and their trust and all of this. And she's like, you don't know my sister and all of this. I think that all of those things was very Clint heavy. I think that even Elena, I like her banter and everything, but I think that her being in this show was geared toward a Clint storyline because it's geared to him going through a forgiveness of himself for what losing Nat, because he has this huge guilt for Nat sacrificing herself. And I think that I get what you're saying, like the grittiness and his backstory is so important, and I would love for it to be told at some point. But I didn't feel like this was a Kate heavy show. I think it was a very much Kate was the tool that they used to get Clint and express him through his darkness, so he can now just be what he wants to be. Which
and again, that's his recent darkness. This is a character that had to fight through a life. He did not have an easy time growing up. Okay, what I'm getting to is that the darkness that he avoided in order to become a SHIELD agent, in order to meet his mark. He is an extraordinary individual in every sense of the word. He is as committed as any particular character in Marvel Comics. I do not see Kevin Feige giving another opportunity to tell this type of story. In fact, I don't even think he wants to tell it. Well, and that's fine. That's good. That's his choice to make.
One of the complaints I've heard over the years, especially with Marvel movies, is that they just continue to tell the origin stories. And then, so this was Hawkeye, but we don't know his origin exactly. Those of us that know the comics, and of course, it was interesting that we had Swordmaster in this, but yet he's in a very different role. I mean, no flashbacks to the circus, but that's one of the things that I've heard throughout the years is, Marvel, all they do is tell those origin stories, and then I just get tired of that. Well, here's a story that doesn't tell you an origin. Here's a character you don't know, but you can pick him up where he's at.
And we've done that with every single character but the two humans. I mean, my biggest problem with Black Widow was the inconsistency of the way they told that story. You start out with someone who wants to see about finding her family, but she decides even after finding out that remember, even though her mom was killed, she still has a family out there. But she's like, no, I'm done. I've got a family now. With Clint, it's like, again, as I keep saying, he's got an extraordinary background. He's got all of this stuff, but they weren't aiming towards that. They were always going to do this with this particular actress and this particular character. Nothing against her, nothing against the character. This is the direction that they are going because it's new actors, new contracts, and you don't have to worry about paying a whole lot of money. That is the future of everything. And as certain actors get to a point, you're not really going to see them again. The biggest problem that I think Kevin Feige has right now is trying to find ways of replacing these actors. He talked about this just around the time of Age of Ultron. He had talked about the fact that one of the things that he envied about the many years of DC films and success is the fact that you had multiple actors play a lot of definitive parts. In fact, two actors played one of the worst characters in DC history, and both of them got Academy Awards for it. So there's a lot to go over here. And Kevin Feige still has to, I think, expand the rest of the Marvel universe. We have Cosmic. We're now starting to get into the magic portion. I think what his original plan for Phase 4 was to go cosmic, because James Gunn was meant to oversee all of that. He was going to introduce us to the rest of the cosmic universe, and that they were going to try to go very small scale with the rest of the characters here on Earth, and that plan changed, like a lot of things.
Sure.
Spider-Man, though, was different. Spider-Man is a joint thing, even though Marvel handles a majority of that. Spider-Man only really came together when Amy Pascal was pushed out of the mix. Look, when you go to all the interviews with all of the adult actors, they all mention one name. It's Amy Pascal. When you look at all the Spider-Man actors, they don't mention Amy's name. And there's a reason for that. She's a scary lady who's done a lot of really not cool things to be a little, about the whole thing. There's a reason why she's not running Sony anymore.
Sure.
But she's having a good time. It's almost as if she concocted all of this from the way she's acting. And the fact that they gave Avi Arad that nice little moment at the end of the credits, for a guy that was not that well liked by a lot of the people that he intimately worked with and was pretty much hated by Amy Pascal and her superiors, we're going to see more Spider-Man. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to try to open up the rest of the Spider-Verse.
We were talking about that earlier. So, yeah.
We're going to definitely get Miles, but I think we're also going to get Jessica. And I think we're going to get Ben.
I want Ben.
And we're definitely, I think, going to get Miguel. In fact, it would be great if Miguel and Miles teamed up. That would be fantastic to have the two of them. But the one that I have heard the most about really is Silk.
No, that's interesting.
That's where Amy Pascal is aiming right now. She really enjoys that character. Nothing against Spider-Gwen. We're definitely going to get Spider-Gwen. But she is all in on Silk.
That'll be interesting if they actually have that relationship that they do in the comics where they can't really see each other because they're all over each other. So, Josh and Tim, you guys have been quiet for a while. What are you guys thinking? What do you think about what Keith's telling us?
Well, I guess just jumping back to the Hawkeye discussion a little bit, I agree with basically what everybody said here. I loved, AJ, what you said about the relationship and the healing and the passing of the torch. I really felt that was the main purpose that they set up Hawkeye for. But at the same time, Keith, everything you said about what Hawkeye's backstory and giving him a little bit of an origin and, giving us a little bit of explanation of what makes Clint Barton tick. I was really hoping for that myself, just like I was hoping for a little bit more backstory, a little bit more flashback with Black Widow. Like, I really thought that's the movie we were going into. And I was so pumped when we started this movie. We're seeing her as a kid and she's got blue hair and she's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see this little blue-haired kid kick some butt. And then they just, boom, jump automatically to why? I wanted to see her grow up in the Red Room. I wanted to see, at least give me 30 minutes of the film devoted to her growing up and giving us a better understanding of what Natasha is and who she is and why she is. I wanted that. And so I was really hoping that they would at least give us some Budapest storyline. And when they didn't show it to us in Black Widow, I was like, okay, well, we've still got Hawkeye. So maybe Scarlett's going to make an appearance in Hawkeye and we're going to at least get a chunk of flashback, something of him doing anything. I would love that. And it just did not happen. And I think you're right. I'm absolutely worried that we're not going to get to see any more of Jeremy Renner showing up. And we're definitely, now that they've already pushed forward with Kate, I don't think we're going to get any more previous Hawkeye stuff. I think they're kind of done with him, and he might show up in some cameo appearances here as there. Oh yeah, hey, look, there's Hawkeye, but I don't really see him having another storyline centered on it.
Let me also add this into the whole Hawkeye discussion. For Yelena to have figured out the names of his wife and all his kids and not know any of the stories and how close Clint was to Nat was also a plot hole. That's a big plot hole. You cannot do all that. Given the fact that all their names were supposed to have been kept hidden on the down low, for her to have found all that out but have no understanding of their relationship was a plot hole.
But wasn't that involved in the stuff that what's her name gave Elena at the very end of Black Widow, saying to go kill Clint Barton, gave her that information on his information about his family, because you've got that right at the end.
All of that info that was given to Yelena, we have. I mean, there's there's no explanation as to what was in the packet,
right.
Whether or not the info. I can guarantee you, I can almost say this: when the packet of information was given to Yelena, chances are it was doctored and there was stuff left out.
Exactly.
Well, that's the
given
thing.
it to her.
Given the fact that Yelena is taking orders now from someone else who is a very mysterious person, the fact that she didn't try to investigate and figure out who this person was, given everything that she's been through in the movie Black Widow, her trust in people and authority figures is low. And the fact that she took that package and went, well, I'll go do this, you know.
Were there any other widows that rose out of the Red Room program outside of Yelena and Natasha Romanoff that were noteworthy in the comics?
Not too many more. Not too many more.
But yeah, not very many.
But the thing is that again, I mean, it's not that I hate any of the actors. They have done a phenomenal job. Everybody that has been a part of any of this stuff has done a phenomenal job. My issue is with the writers and with the people, the producers and showrunners that are plotting some of these things out. They're just not doing as good a job. And again, it's not so much me that's like, I want to see this because I believe the character should go here. It's about what you set up from film to film to film, now going into television series to television series. If you say a certain thing is a way in the movies and you're trying to make a big thing about going into television and keeping everything the same, I'm all about it. I'm all about it. Keep going with it. You make a mistake, a big mistake, and you take us a different direction, then I'm going to have an issue. Not mad about it. I just have an issue with it.
Sure.
That's just it. It's not perfect, but you expect it to be, given all the multiple millions they've made. You know, they now should be placed on a higher level than everyone else. So you should expect more. You know, WandaVision wasn't perfect, but it hit me the right way. You know, I didn't think Loki was perfect, but it hit me the right way. You know, What If was probably my favorite thing of all the things they've done. And that's because I'm a big What If fan from the comics, you know. But everything else, I even thought that Falcon and the Winter Soldier had problems. You know, to me, you cannot convince me that the Dora Milaje could not have found those people if they hadn't wanted to. Given all of the agents they have, all of the resources they have, and the only thing that they were wanting to do is just find the Winter Soldier. You know what he's going after. Find those people, find the terrorist, give him what he wants, you get what you want. It's so easy. And yet they couldn't do that. The script kind of like loses focus and goes off on this weird direction. And it's just, you know, but then again, you know, they did stop production because of COVID and maybe a few things got changed around. I got to at least give them that, you know, but at least it's not Eternals bad. So
with Elena, I actually didn't take it as a plot hole. Because, and let me throw this out there. One, she got snapped. She got blunt. She was gone 5 years back, and 5 years she had been going on this mission to like rescue and show these black widows, you know, like to get their minds cleared. She is in the middle of doing this. She gets snapped. Comes back 5 years later, and she now has lost not just 5 years, but she finds out that her sister sacrificed herself or was killed or whatever, and she is still in that 5 years ago mindset where she came out of this brainwashed thing. And if somebody, you know, I'm a weird person. I like studying like people who are been in cults and how their minds work afterwards and stuff. She still has this very programmable mind because she is still programmed and she's coming out of it. And so this lady comes up to her in the middle of her grief and is like, Clint Barton, and gives her this information And you can only assume that he basically is just telling her all the right psychological words for a woman who's grieving, who's lost 5 years, that this man is the reason your sister died. And you think that a regular person would be like, why should I listen to you? I've already listened to these people brainwashing me, but she is stuck in this perpetual childhood almost, in the fact that she's like this teenager. When she talks, it's sassy, but it's not an adult sassy. It is a teenager sassy. It is a 14-year-old girl sassy. And so, and I'm the only one here who's been a 14-year-old girl. So a 14-year-old girl who's been brainwashed, who's been snapped away, lost 5 years, came back, and found out that her sister, who she just reconnected with, who was the only thing to a real relationship that in her mind she could ever have, is gone. And this woman this is the reason why she's going to emotionally believe it. She is emotionally not stable enough at that moment to grasp reality still. And so I didn't think of it as a plot hole. I thought of it as an emotional, psychological. She was psychologically damaged from all the years of abuse and then being blimped and then her dead. And this woman took advantage of her. And then when she sees Kate responding to Clint in a positive way, that starts this like, wait, okay, Kate's not a bad person. I know about Kate. And then when she starts talking to Clint in that moment when he whistles, it's almost like she's been deprogrammed a second time. It's like another powder being thrown on her face that she's like, oh, because she was so emotionally vulnerable. So I never took it as a plot hole. I took it as that's her emotional storyline of where she was at the moment she got, snapped away, and then coming back and finding out that her whole world is just not what it was, also not what she thought it would be. And her sister, who's the closest relationship she has, is dead. And this woman uses it to her advantage that this is a woman who, yes, is an assassin. Like, she is strong and she is physically capable of killing whoever she wants, whenever she wants, but she is mentally stuck in that like teenage mindset of a girl, and that woman took advantage of her. So that's kind of why I didn't think of it as a plot hole.
And I can see that. I can see how you reached that. That's fine. And you know what? That's a heck of a lot better than what I was actually presented and what I saw. I would have liked to have seen that. I didn't. And unfortunately, what you just described is an individual that would immediately make S.H.I.E.L.'s hit list if she were that malleable.
Well, but
So,
but she wasn't that malleable when she was brainwashed, but being brainwashed for her entire life.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But so, again, that she's a good look. She was one of the few bright spots in that movie, and is going to continue to be a bright spot for the rest of the MCU. Personally, I really enjoyed her performance in the Black Widow film. Unfortunately, I just didn't like what they ended up doing with the character of Natalie, who supposedly was the person who we had watched that movie for. We didn't get anything out of that. Anything that we didn't already know, except for the illogic of going, I want my family. Oh, I find out about my family, and now I don't want anything to do with that because I already have one.
How about Jack and his freaking sword, man?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Let's hear it for Jack and the sword.
The sword master part there. That was.
I really like his character's not doing anything for me in the first couple of episodes, and then we find out what's really going on, and then he like gets a chance to kind of play this good guy / rogue. Dude had comedic timing, and I loved it. I really liked it a lot.
Yes, it was great. Look, again, casting. AJ, you hit it right on the head earlier. Casting is phenomenal for what they want to do. Whether you're talking the Disney Plus stuff or the movies or even the HBO Max DC stuff, they have a lot of great casting. And again, Doom Patrol. You know, it is just amazing what you can do. But again,
so
we still got the Eternals. I'm gonna keep beating that dead horse. I'm gonna continue to do that to him.
I've seen much worse movies than that one. So, Jason commented on this for us, guys. Jason says AJ is a valid point. So there you go. I don't know
which point it was, but thanks.
Well, that came in right as you were talking about Elena and why she would be motivated. That's where he commented at. So
yeah, I just think that like I get and I agree with you, Keith, on the fact that I love like Clint Barton. I love his character. I've been a fan of his. I always those more, you know, like lesser known, obscure. It's not like he's obscure, but you know what I mean. Not the ones everybody else is reading. I love those comics. I love his character. I think that you are correct that it's a disservice to his character. You've never seen any of his gritty, hard skills and how he taught them and where he came from mentally to get there. And we didn't see any of that. And that is a disservice to his character. I just didn't mind that because I understood that this is part of going forward, and I was okay with it a little bit more than you were, Keith. That you know what I mean? Because I'm like forward.
I enjoyed these comics that this is based on.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt Fraction, Dave Aja, these guys did a phenomenal job. I'm still kind of salty at the fact that why Aja was not given the opportunity to become a producer. That is kind of sketchy to me. But especially if you're going to use his designs for the title sequence and for the costumes, and you're not going to allow him to at least, you know, be someone behind the that's sketchy. But again, all of this stuff is still entertaining. I will go to my grave and say that this past year of Disney Plus offerings on the whole is great. It's great. It's better than a lot of stuff. It's if you are an MCU fan, this is definitely the stuff that you wanted to see. Okay, for me personally,
as a kid, that I wanted to see with comics. See comics translate into TV, and I mean the best we got before some of this was the Incredible Hulk series, and we even changed his name in there.
You know what really sucks about this whole thing, and it goes back to a point that AJ made early on in the conversation. We agree with is awesome, and all the stuff that we don't agree with that is not awesome, whether they hit the right moments or they're ripping stuff straight off the page and slapping it up on the screens for our enjoyment. What really sucks about this whole thing is these characters are going to age out, and we can't live forever to see the rest of the stories they're going to come up with. That's what sucks.
Well, until Kevin Feige can figure out a way to actually make that changeover. That's the only thing he hasn't figured out yet. He wants to solve that, because I'm telling you, as we are speaking right now, I am bet you dollars to donuts that the higher ups at Disney are going, hey man, you know, our analytics show that while people are enjoying a lot of this stuff, when are we going to get Iron Man back? When are we going to get Captain America back? When are we, you know, win? And again, even Kevin Feige himself stated that that's one of the strongest things that DC's ever done, is the ability to be able to come through with other actors to play the parts. You know, even Sony seemingly has figured it out with Spider-Man.
And how vast. I mean, I think we all know the answer to this question in one respect or another. how vast and how deep is the well of content for Marvel before they have to like literally go back to Captain America and Thor and all of that stuff.
But that's the problem. That's the problem overall with Hollywood right now, because in my opinion, not a lot of the people doing a lot of this stuff have a true understanding of how vast everything is. Look, DC Comics has one of the most deep character wells you could ever have. Okay, the amount of stuff that DC covers and the characters and how long they've been doing it consistently without going out of business 3 times is amazing. And the very fact that even someone like a Steven Spielberg could dip deep into DC and go, I want to do Black Hawk. And you have a lot of people going, what's that? You know, again, if he makes that movie, all of you out there are going to enjoy it.
They say that initially, and then when he actually brings it to screen, and it's the most amazing thing ever. Like every small victory that a director gets, every small victory that DC and Marvel gets, chips away at that. It chips away at those people out there that going, Blackhawk, what the hell is that? Or who the hell is this character? Who's Plastic Man? Who's Elastic Man? Who the hell are all these people?
Well, even the Legion of Superheroes, which is now going to be something. I've been saying for years the Legion should have been a movie. I had said for years that the Doom Patrol should have been something. It definitely deserves a major motion picture version, preferably the version that I first saw from the very beginning of the Doom Patrol, because that's, I think, a much clearer story and not as strange as this version, because it's based on a particular more recent comic version and take on the characters. But even with all of that, there is a lot to go. Spider-Man is a character that doesn't have to be confined to one character. It is a big mistake to say that you got to have Peter Parker and then let's age him up, get him out, and bring in Miles. It's a mistake to do that, because we no longer live in that time where you only have one. We have multiple. And this was without having a Spider-Verse. You have multiple characters. You have multiple different ways to go. You don't need to have everything embodied in just one character. And again,
I'm glad you said that. And that's exactly why we've gotten Toby, we've gotten Andrew, and we've gotten Tom. It's another reason why when you have to live through the freaking Schumacher area and then you get into Christian Bale and all of that stuff as Batman, and then now we're going to have Robert Pattinson. That's why you got to allow other people to dabble in the universe and dabble in the medium and make their movies, because there are films that you need to have a palate cleanser for. And I don't care. It's not just comic book movies. There are palate cleansers that you have to have for all kinds of movies. That's why you can't cut the creativity off with just one portrayal.
Michael B. Jordan, I'm telling you right now, Michael B. Jordan, he has the key, okay? Him making his Superman movie is going to show up everybody, including J.J. Abrams, who I think is headed down the wrong road. He is making the same mistake that a lot of people in Hollywood continue to make. For instance, for me as a person of color, I don't want to see J.J. Abrams' version. I don't need a black Clark Kent. Okay? I need Val Zod. That's a story I want to see. Val Zod is awesome.
Right.
What about Nick Cage's Superman? I mean, I would just love to see that on principle, you know?
I mean, I talk about stop taking characters and making them minorities when there are minority characters that you could be showcasing are amazing. Like, stop force-feeding the same character in a it's a Fortnite thing, okay? And I'm learning about Fortnite because I have a stepdaughter now. But it's stop putting these characters in different skins and saying, okay, well, here you go. Like, just give us a different character. There are enough characters to make. People are always saying Hollywood's running out of ideas. No, they're just not looking. They're just.
You got it. That's it. That's what I've been saying for years. You got it. That's it. Right there. Right there.
I think Marvel's problem is with the reason that they are saying these, and I say these actors are aging out, is because they did such a great job in casting these characters that now this is what people are expecting, and so they have a hard time because whereas Batman, every couple movies, every movie you had a different Batman, so you didn't get like Iron Man for how many films and it's the same person, so you could go, oh, okay, it's a different person. Now in your head, when you think Iron Man, you think Robert. Like, that's who you picture.
That's a good thing, and that is a bad thing, and it's exactly what Kevin Feige was trying to talk about. This is great that we're making all this money, that people enjoy these actors, but the downside is we can't keep these actors. We can't keep paying them this much. Eventually, you're going to hit a wall with all this stuff. They're either going to ask, because they're going to continue to renegotiate and ask for more money. That was never going to last.
Let me throw this into the conversation. Is there a case to be made? I mean, and I like the way Keith said that. It's a good problem to have, and it's a bad problem to have. And he's 100% spot on. As iconic as Robert Downey Jr. was, I mean, he is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. People say that. People will say that for years to come. It'll probably go on long after we are dead and gone. But let me just bring this up. Robert Downey Jr. had his time. We know that Ironheart is coming.
Mm-hmm.
When Riri Williams debuts, and I'm just saying this, I'm just trying to predict, the character comes along and the actress that portrays the role of Ironheart is so iconic that her role is on the same level as Robert Downey Jr. or eclipses what he did in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is possible. What if that is the way things go for Marvel? I mean, they have these new actors that come in. Robert Pattinson, same thing. The Batman is almost upon it. It's going to come up April 1st. He steps in. What if his role as the Batman is the best one? It's even bigger than Michael Keaton, bigger than Christian Bale. He is the talk of the town. And what if the studios run into that consistently over and over again? These new actors come in and they eclipse the prior.
Okay, let me just take this a piece at a time. With Robert Pattinson, it's all about Matt Reeves' interpretation.
Yeah,
it's not, in my opinion, it's not about a better performance because it's different scripts and different situations, different crews, different ways of doing things. Because we've seen that with the character of Joker winning 2 Academy Awards. I know it happened. It's still strange to me. It's strange to even say that. But when you look at the 2 actors and their 2 very different performances for that one character, okay, now it is about the script. It's about the director. It's about what you want to bring to that. With Ironheart, there's always that possibility, although I think it's kind of a waste because you are taking this character whom, again, there are many other characters of color who have never really going to experience this kind of high-level visibility. And while Ironheart is a new character, nothing against her being new, but seriously, there are a lot of other characters that could have come before her that I would have probably have given films to and done some amazing work with. Not that I don't want to see Iron. Not that I don't want to.
Speedball, didn't you? You wanted Speedball.
Only if I really hated myself. But
a New Warriors with Speedball would be amazing.
New Warriors is definitely something different. You're definitely talking to a guy who wanted to see Peter Parker and his friendship with Johnny Storm.
Yeah,
you're talking to a guy that also wanted to see Peter Parker and his friendship with Bobby Drake. Yeah. And how the 3 of them and the early Marvel universe, I mean, it's all the stuff that Sam Raimi was attempting to do. That is really the secret of what Sam Raimi was doing. It's no bigger secret than that. I know some people have a hard time, a lot of Hollywood guys have a hard time trying to figure that out, especially Avi Arad, who stabbed him in the back to do what he did with Spider-Man 3. But some of the stuff is relatively simple. But you would think that we were asking for the world plus and what we were.
They don't understand simple. They want to complicate everything.
Yeah, well, Milestone should be a major thing that Warner Brothers is willing to put out there. The entire Milestone line, if you're really wanting to have characters of color, should be the next thing. They should not be having a hard time making a Milestone movie. Icon should be the next movie right out the back. I know a lot of people say Static. I say Icon. Get to Icon.
Well, I think
change everything.
If you do Static, he's a more known commodity to the general
he's
public.
Spider-Man.
From the cartoon. He's Spider-Man. He is, but then you can use that to bring in Icon right away.
It's two different stories in a way.
No, it is. But
it's a streetwise character versus a very powerful character, and what I have been discussing, especially with filmmakers of color that I know out in Hollywood, is it's hard to show people that look like us be very powerful. This is a new step for Hollywood, but they're only willing to trust that step only so far. Icon would be a huge statement.
Sure.
Making a Black Clark Kent, what you're really doing is that everybody who's already invested in or owns any portion of Superman as a character, as he has been for Clark Kent, you're just making them more money. Right. You're not spreading it around to all the other creators and others who have created characters that have existed. I mean, even Black Lightning, I think the biggest mistake that Greg Berlanti ever made was not connecting Black Lightning to Green Lantern.
Right.
Because the two of them are related. And it turns out one of the members of the Legion of Superheroes might actually be a real distant relative of John Stewart. He was also the second Black character ever introduced in the DC Comics. There's all this history, all this deep well of things, and all that stuff never gets talked about. It gets pushed behind a door, like a lot of Marvel stuff gets put behind a door. They close the door, and they go to the same thing every time. Well, what are we going to do with Iron Man? What are we going to do with Captain America? What are we going to do with Batman? What are we going to do with Superman? It's all the same thing. If you want different, go for different. It's there.
Well, here's the thing. I know you're talking about portrayals of people of color in comics and stuff. There's so many great that you could choose from, but they have hard time with anything that's not a white male. I know that sounds bad. How long did it take us to get a Wonder Woman who's a white female?
Mm-hmm.
How long to get an actual Wonder Woman movie? So, I mean, I think it's just a broken thing in Hollywood, and it's bankable. It's what it is. It's bankable. And
it isn't just. Okay,
Clark Kent is.
But also, you have a problem even when you have an all-female movie. How Hollywood will come in, how the corporations come in and change things. A good example of that is Birds of Prey. That movie was completely dumbed down from its original script. In fact, before you put Harley Quinn into that script was aces. It was aces. And then you make the movie, and you have probably one of the best fighters, individual hand-to-hand combatants in DC Comics, and you neutered her by regressing her in age and turning her into a thief.
Right.
Cassandra Cain is a badass. Bruce Wayne will tell you that. Okay? You took a badass character and you turned her into a thief who swallowed a diamond. Really? Right. God, that was embarrassing.
well, guys, as much as I'd love to continue to talk this, we're 2 hours in now.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I know somebody has to go to work tomorrow for the first time in what month and a half of vacation is that. So wanted to bring this back. We've got a few comments I'm going to throw up here, and then we'll just go through and give our overall grade for Hawkeye. There you go. Magnum's here with us. So let me do this. So Mandy, and this was about AJ's comments earlier. Some little hearts there. Love you, Mandy. You're awesome. Jason says, honestly, wouldn't accept anybody in Deadpool other than Ryan Reynolds, and I think that's probably true. I don't think anybody can play that role like Ryan Reynolds did.
That's a good thing and a bad thing.
It is, but that's where people are at. And he also says Hollywood's overdue for a Black Widow movie for about a decade, and that's true because he was introduced in Iron Man 2. Should have instantly gone into a movie, and we basically
that would have been the time to do that story.
That would have been a great time to do that story.
Tim, I'm going to say this. I'm obsessed with Sabrina right at this moment. She looks so relaxed and like she's just like, I'm on TV. Okay. If people are filming me, okay. It's just so relaxed.
Yeah. Well, it's all about her.
I'm very shocked that she's in here. She never comes into the studio, but I think we've been in here for so long. She's been sitting at the door just watching us, and she's probably getting ignored at me that I'm not in my recliner right now, so she can sleep on my belly. That's why she's up here.
All right.
Guys,
so,
what do you guys think? Give your thumbs up, 1 through 10, whatever you guys do on Hawkeye.
Honestly, I've got to give it 8 out of 10. I really do. You know, it had some moments that I was like, really, why are we doing this? But at the same time, I'm in total agreement with Keith. I wanted some more backstory for Clint. You know, I was really hoping that that's how they're going to start things off. I love the dynamic between, Elena and Kate. And I love the dynamic between Kate and Clint. And I love that they brought us Kingpin back. I love that so much. I can't even, believe it. I honestly, I've went back and watched the last episode twice now, just to kind of relive the fact of watching Kingpin fight Hawkeye or Kate Bishop. It's just fantastic. So 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I can support that. I mean, it really was a great entrance for Kate Bishop. I loved you just had stable performances with the addition of Vera Farmiga in that, and of course the addition of Vincent D'Onofrio into the MCU, which is exactly where he deserves to be. We need to expand that character. He needs to have a big presence going forward because the guy can choose some scenes, and he's such a badass. Plus, Hawaiian shirt for the win. But, I love the dynamic. Jeremy Renner and Kate Bishop really hits their stride. The relationship does towards the end of the series. And I think everybody on this channel would agree the comedic dynamic and that frenemy blossoming into a potential friendship between Yelena Belova and Kate Bishop was absolutely phenomenal. I want to see more of that. So this is the foundation. We can expand it. We can broaden the story. We need to keep Clint where he's at. It's just great. So I could back that up. 8 out of 10 for me. I liked it.
Mr. Keith, what do you got to say? Cool.
Well, guys, it's been a long time, man. And when I say this, I mean it with all due respect. Thank you to Kevin Feige, everybody at the MCU, Disney Plus. You guys have done an amazing job. I give Hawkeye 6 out of 10.
Peace. What do you say?
I'm going to give it 7 out of 10.
Hey.
Only because I do agree that one, we need to see more Clint, but it would have been amazing to see King. Like, yes, he was amazing in what he did, but I would have liked to see him do more. Like, once I got him, I'm like, why didn't they bring him in earlier? Like, I loved him with this. And High Point, of course, is just, like, I like is always that steady, character where he is, and we've discussed. But I loved Elena and Kate, and Elena just made this movie so much more fun than it would have been without her. She did that comedy and that like weird innocence, but from a Black Widow. It was a weird mix, but it worked. And 7 out of 10.
Oh, Kate Bishop, you're so funny. So, yeah, Well, okay, so here's a series that gave me 2 different Hawkeyes, both who I love. You gave me Lucky the Pizza Dog, who we didn't even mention, but I love Lucky. Lucky the Pizza Dog that's awesome. And Kate Bishop saving him at the very beginning. We get to conclude what's going on with Ronan. We get to have LARPers that are involved in this and give some credence to LARPers. And, we do get Kingpin back in a phenomenal role there. And dude, I want tracksuits. So Tracksuit Mafia for the win. I give it 9 out of 10. Keith, you're gonna cosplay with tracksuits with us, right? Tracksuit Mafia.
Yeah, I didn't get it. I didn't even get into that. Look, I enjoyed the comic series. I've always been waiting for the Tracksuit Mafia. They were my favorite part of the entire thing. But the LARPers, if they had never been in another episode, I'm fine with it. I just thought they distracted from too many other things. I would have cut them out to have Yelena in there more.
Well, in the fact
that's just me.
You get a moving truck, talks about bro on the top.
Right.
The car dealership is Fat Man Motors.
I know.
Come on.
Hey, Larry. Larry.
I'm in. I'll do that with you.
So we can do that the Friday of
OzCon.
Of OzCon. We'll do it Friday. We'll do tracksuits. Yo, bro. Let's go around. Yo, bro.
Then we can whip around with Russian accent all night, bro.
Yo, we can do that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, all right.
You can consider us in, bro.
OzCon, Friday cosplay. There we go. So,
you people are crazy with your love of tracksuits. I not wear tracksuits. You have sweaty balls.
And there we go.
On that note,
so Tim, because you had Sabrina, this came across for you.
Hold on, I am sure to see his wiser than.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
I like him as Hawkeye. I liked that they were doing the whole Kate Bishop storyline. I loved that all the rumors were saying the Kingpin was coming back, and it turned out to be true. I loved all that stuff, but I had no desire to watch this show. So it was like, I think there were 3 episodes out before we actually watched it, 2, 3, somewhere in there. And we finally broke down and was like, what do we want to watch? Oh, there's nothing on. I don't know. We've watched that. Well, let's check out Hawkeye. And then it was totally, I was on board. And just, this was really one of the first times where they just like, not beat for beat 100%, but like extremely closely followed like a specific storyline. So like kind of knew where it was going and watching, the little twists that they would throw in with that. So I enjoyed it a lot more because of all of that. So as far as putting a number to it, I guess
you have to put a number to it.
I really enjoyed it. So I'd say 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. I mean, that's
pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
There you go. That's awesome. And that, gentlemen, is Spoo.
Spoo. Take care of yourself, brother.
Yeah, he's healing up for us because we're going to have him back in action soon. Jason said one more thing, and then we'll close this out. He wants Luke Cage back now that we've got Kingpin back.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
You know what? I would have thought that Luke Cage would have been a priority. In fact, I would have thought that the Daughters of the Dragon would have been a priority.
That would have been amazing.
We're concentrating on Ms. Marvel and Riri Williams right now, and I totally understand. I totally get it. Also, I wanted to also put in a shout out to Arcane League of Legends, one of the best shows, best ever of this past year. If you're not watching it, you are missing out on most definitely the best show out there.
That was a really amazing anime series on Netflix.
Oh, and more than it's best. It was better than a majority of just people, regular human type live action show that was better. It was just the character development and the acting was just amazing. Way more development than anything you'll ever see on Star Trek Discovery.
Oh,
We went there.
He
And I
did.
continue to go there every day, right, Batwoman?
Yeah, you knew that was going to come up at some point here. All right, AJ.
So much for joining us. Nerd Informed, we love you. Keith always brings so much information, and like I like talking and disagreeing with you is always fun, Keith. I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh, and look, I love you guys. I do. I don't have to have people agree with me. I just have a particular point of view, and I know for many people it's the wrong one, but it's the way I feel. Okay, so
Nothing wrong with how you feel.
There's no right or wrong. It's all opinion. That's all we're about is sharing our opinions, and hopefully somebody agrees with them. And if they don't, like Tim's like, yeah, Tim and I work together. You just share it. And, okay, I don't care. After it's done, I don't care. So, guys, we always end our show by giving a bunch of shout outs to all our friends, and I haven't done this for like over a month. So please forgive me if I'm going to do it slower. But our first shout out, throw it up there. Professor, who am I going to shout out?
Let's go with Nerd Informant since we've got them right here.
Look, he's looking around.
And then I clicked the wrong thing for it, so.
See, he's not done this for like a month.
I know, right? Here we go. There we are. All right. Goodness.
Okay, and that is
This is the story about a guy named Brady.
Right, look, there is a video. But you're gonna see videos on like reviews. Josh and Tim both have like great content. They share things, they share news, everything. They get interviews with some great people, which I'm super jealous of. By the way, we were talking about your interviews, Josh, and I am shocked that your Bruce Campbell interview has not like blown up because it was so.
It was amazing.
Which one?
Bruce Campbell.
Oh yeah, no.
Come get some.
Freaking groovy Bruce, man. I was talking with the Chin himself. That still has not sunk in yet.
Guys, check them out on YouTube and Facebook. Give them a like, subscribe, share, comment. They are gonna like banter back and forth with you, talk to you. If you want to see something from them, let them know. They're good about that. They also have a page for nerds like us to just share whatever we find, and that's the Nerd Informants Beyond, and that's a great Facebook page. You can share all your content, or you can share like fun things that you find, memes. They don't, as long as it fits into that cool, geeky, nerdy wonderfulness, share it. Get a conversation going. That's what it's all about. Then we have Keith here doing this little like Hawaiian. He's in Hawaii, by the way. Keith in Hawaii, yeah. And that is Keith and Gary over at Pop Culture Minefield on YouTube. Now they're going to have all kinds of discussions. They're a little less friendly than we are here, so just be aware that you might need to put the headphones on if you have little ones rolling around, because Gary likes words that we don't use. And
Gary's a little salty after his time in the military, but we may have a chance to re-examine and re-explore certain things for a upcoming new show we're putting together that will center and focus in a very serious way a lot of the stories that we're going over, especially with the help of our friend Mikey Sutton. So we'll be getting some deep dives into really how everything is gonna roll from here on in, and we hope to get a nice deep dive into things like the Warner and Discovery merger and how a certain person in charge of DC films may not have a job after this.
So, and that's good. They're going to be able to find this new show over at Pop Culture Minefield on YouTube. You guys can I know they'll probably link things and share things, but be sure to go hit subscribe so you do not miss out on this new show. And you don't miss out on all their amazing content that they already have up and they're putting in. Now, Keith, tell me about Keith. What are you doing now? Are you still
we're to the 4th season of Babylon 5, and it is, again, I'm amazed that people wanted to do this after me making some sort of a statement about it after one of the shows. But Babylon 5, if you've never seen it, is a television series that is from the 90s and actually does successfully what Star Wars and Star Trek tried to do in having a television show that also is in line with all of its additional material, whether it be comics or books. Everything falls directly into line to tell this one incredible story. There is a reason why Babylon 5 is coming back as a rebooted series, and trust me, while there is a rebooted series coming, it may actually also fall in line in a different way with a whole new set of characters that are basically repeats of some of the characters we know. It's almost like a different universe. But this story, Babylon 5, think of it like a book. 5 chapters, beginning, middle, end.
Yeah, you literally have gone through every aspect of this up to this point, and you're going to continue doing that. And that's over at Keith Chimes In. And that is on Mondays at 3 p.m. at the Fat Steven Seagal Show over on YouTube. So
Fat Steven!
hit subscribe so that you can keep up with all of that. Then we have our Ozpod gals that are over on Ozpod on Facebook. They go live on Thursdays, but they've been doing some like pre-recorded stuff. But be sure to go check them out. They are one of our newest like friends of our like nerdy world that we live in. And they're just amazing. They're going to be so much fun to watch. They're beautiful and smart, funny, and you know, girls. You can't go wrong with a geeky girl. And then we have Stu over at Scallywag Productions. Not new videos because of health issues, but we're hoping to get back into the swing of things, at least some new ideas and stuff soon. Very soon, because he just had surgery Wednesday. But be sure to go check him out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. He posts a collectible of the day because the man has so many collectibles, plus he posts some of mine. And then there's us over at GeekyKOOL.com.
Us.
Yep, us. Hey, Spoon. From here, hold on.
The Spoo intro.
Pop over to www.GeekyKOOL.com, your one-stop shop for all things nerd.
We have great computers, all kinds of content, and you guys share news, trailers, articles, just about anything. If you can put it right for us, let us know because we're always into like letting the nerdy voices be heard.
There you go. We will leave it with that. Thank you again, Nerd Informants. Josh and Tim, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Keith, thank you for joining us. And, of course, my beautiful co-host, the one and only Ace. You're amazing.
Co-hosted.
I'm just here. So make sure you guys stay geeky out there and have a wonderful evening.
We'll see you next